Hi, my name is Jason, and I am the founder of founderoftheday.com. I write daily articles about the American Revolution, and I try and focus on the more obscure founders and stories to help paint a bigger picture of the revolution at large. I'm doing today what I did a year and a half ago when I started the website, which is I'm diving right in. I don't know a lot about editing YouTube videos or editing videos at all. I'm just going to tell this story. I'll probably put it up unedited. Maybe in the future I'll get around to learning how to do that kind of thing, but I got a job and family, very young babies. Um, so we'll see. Today I'm going to start with the person I currently think is the most underrated American founder, and that is John Dickinson. Now, it can be argued for a number of other people are the most underrated or underappreciated founders. I would probably say next in line is Robert Morris, and if you ask me 3 months from now, I might say it's Robert Morris. It depends what I'm reading that day. But John Dickinson, who made the big chart up here, you definitely can't see his face, but that's him. We'll start from the beginning. John Dickinson was born in 1732, which makes him the same age as George Washington. He became a lawyer. He was from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia, even though he was born in Maryland. That's where he grew up. Spent some time overseas, learning things, yada, yada, yada. He really becomes important in 1765, when in his early 30s, he's sent as a delegate to the Stamp Act Congress. Now, as I've written about, and I'm sure I'll make videos about, the Stamp Act Congress is one of the most important moments in American history. It's the meeting where they realize, hey, these people are a little radical, or these people are being too conservative, by which I mean some of these people would end up being loyalists and fighting for the crown. John Dickinson was on the more radical side. Not too radical, this is early. But he wrote one of the letters that were the result of the Stamp Act Congress, which was held in New York, were 3 letters sent to the King, House of Lords, and House of Commons. Dickinson wrote one of those, and they signed it and sent it over, and it worked. They just wrote protests, and mostly due to the merchants who were being boycotted, said, hey, Parliament, enough is enough. Parliament said, okay, we'll get rid of it, but we're going to write the Declaratory Act, which says we can do it if we want. Oh, we can do it if we want. We're not gonna, but we could. And everything seemed normal, except over the next few years, Parliament started issuing the Townshend Acts, known as the Intolerable Acts. And this is where Dickinson really starts to make a name for himself. He writes a series of articles which became known as Letters from a Farmer in Pennsylvania. And Letters from a Farmer in Pennsylvania were outlining the grievances that would later become the reasons for revolution. Now, he didn't come up with all of them himself. He didn't make them all up, but he consolidated them to a nice series of letters. And he was read throughout the colonies, and his name became a little bit more well-known. And he was already well-known in Philadelphia. He was wealthy and a great lawyer and one of the smartest men around. Just one of the naturally smartest men. And years go by, and 9 years after the Stamp Act Congress in 1774, there's the First Continental Congress, which John Dickinson attends. What do you know? And he goes and he signs the Articles of Association, also known as the Continental Association, which was another boycott. And a lot of people, they kind of thought, well, it'll be like the Stamp Act Congress. We'll list our grievances, and they'll say, okay, sorry. And they all go home. And 8 months later, in May of 1775, the delegates start arriving in for the Second Continental Congress, and oh wait, what's that? Oh, the war broke out in Lexington? Uh-oh. And Dickinson, who was kind of a moderate at this point, compared to some of the guys that already wanted independence. Some of the dudes from Massachusetts were like, whoa, slow down, dude. And some of the dudes from Virginia even were saying the same things. And John Dickinson said, no, let's write another petition. And he wrote the Olive Branch Petition, which they signed and sent over and said, we love being British. Can we keep being British, but cool it a little bit? And the king wrote back. He didn't write back. He declared the colonies an open rebellion. So he was more or less like, no. And so from that, many of the revolutionaries got a little more radical. And when it came time to debate the Declaration of Independence, Dickinson got on the floor of the Continental Congress and said no. And he spent a whole day saying why independence should not be declared. Now, wait. Before you go anywhere, you don't just write off Dickinson. His reasons were just. He had two reasons why independence should not be declared at that time. Number one, if we throw off our British government, we don't have a government. So we should create a government first. And two, if we declare independence, we have to win this war. So we should get an alliance with, I don't know, maybe France or maybe Spain. Well, both of those things would happen, but everyone else was like, no, we're going to declare independence first. So Dickinson and Robert Morris, who I mentioned earlier, there's some debate on exactly how it went down, but they were not there for the vote on independence. Now, they either got up and walked out of the room or absented themselves entirely. Either way, they purposely weren't there so that Pennsylvania can vote for, because it was very important for independence to be a unanimous decision. So Dickinson was there for another month or so, finished writing the Articles of Confederation. He wrote the first government of the United States, more or less by himself. Other people helped out, but it was mostly Dickinson. So he does that, but then he has to leave Continental Congress because anyone who didn't vote for independence, there was a rule made that you had to get out, and so he got out. What did he do? Well, he signed up for the Pennsylvania militia, and he led, as a colonel, 10,000 men across the state of New Jersey because the British had just invaded New York, and he parked his men outside of Staten Island just in case. Now, he was quickly getting passed over for promotion by lesser subordinate officers, we'll call. And so he resigned pretty quickly because, like, the writing was on the wall. His reputation was kind of destroyed because he didn't vote for independence. So he decided to go back to Delaware. Now, Delaware and Pennsylvania had a strange relationship at this time, which I won't get too into now, but they were kind of the same colony, but with different governments. So he went back to Delaware and was elected back to the Constitutional Convention from Delaware, where he signed the he signed the articles. He actually ended up being one of the signers. He wrote them as a delegate from Pennsylvania, but signed them as a delegate from Delaware. Soon after, he was elected governor of Delaware. Technically president. Delaware and Pennsylvania called their governors president for a little bit. So, but he was technically governor of Pennsylvania, governor of Delaware, and then was elected governor of Pennsylvania. He was governor of both states simultaneously. Let that sink in. He was governor of two states at the same time. To be fair, after he got Pennsylvania, which was the real state, he kind of bailed on Delaware in a few weeks, maybe a month or two, not very long. And he ran Pennsylvania for several years. And, he went and retired after that for a little bit, but then, what do you know? We're having some problems with these Articles of Confederation you wrote, Dickinson. So he was sent by Pennsylvania, I believe, maybe Delaware. He was sent to the Annapolis Convention in 1786, which was called pretty much by James Madison and Alexander Hamilton to say, come on, there's a lot of problems here, we need to figure this out. So he went, and Dickinson was elected president of that Congress. Now, only a few states showed up, and Dickinson, they didn't get much done, except for calling for a Continental Congress. I should say a Constitutional Convention. They called it the Philadelphia Convention. They called for the Constitutional Convention to right some of the wrongs. That year, Dickinson was sent as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention, where, although he wasn't one of the primary movers and shakers, he was still one of the smartest guys in town, and they looked to him for a certain amount of guidance, and he did sign the Constitution, which means if he had signed the Declaration, he would have signed all 5 major documents. He signed 4 of them. Of the Revolution, he signed the petition to the King from the Stamp Act Congress, the Continental Association from the First Continental Congress. He skipped the Declaration, but signed the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. And he's forgotten a little bit because he didn't sign that Declaration. Probably should have done that. Hindsight's 2020. But he did, he pretty much retired from there. He did help write Pennsylvania's second Constitution in 1792. And I have a quote here I'd like to read from Thomas Jefferson, which he wrote upon hearing of the passing of John Dickinson. And I think it speaks a lot to Dickinson's place in the constitutional, in the founding of the United States. And it's a more estimable, I'm not good at that word, estimable. A more estimable man or truer patriot could not have left us. Among the first of the advocates for the rights of his country when assailed by Great Britain, he continued to the last the orthodox advocate of the true principles of our new government, and his name will be consecrated in history as one of the great worthies of the Revolution. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to see if my videos improve after this one. I'm assuming they will. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And for any of you who have been reading throughout the last year and a half or year, whenever you found Founder of the Day, thank you for reading. Thank you for watching this video. Leave a comment. Tell me what you liked. Tell me if you hate it. Tell me if what you might want me to do. I have a lot of ideas of what could make good YouTube videos. And just thank you for watching.